Sam, Halloween is almost here, which means the end of the world is nigh.
Yeah.
Let's talk about AI.
Let's talk about
Ah!
let's talk about AI, the end of the world,
Yeah.
and the spooky consequences of what's happening right now in the AI world.
Oh my goodness. There's some insanity happening. So we were talking about this over the last couple of weeks on the team. So like Tilly Norwood comes out as like this AI generated character that can replace actors in movies and TV shows and other stuff. And we're watching just like thousands of AI generated influencers popping up all over the place and getting massive followings. We just found one. I cannot believe this. This one AI influencer has 7.3 million followers on Instagram. Like, what are we doing? This is insane. And they're making money. Like,
Yeah.
sponsors are lining up and putting
100%.
money behind these AI generated things.
Yep.
And then get this, one of these Instagram AI influencers who has 2.5 million followers at some point, they might be higher now, came out saying they had leukemia. So obviously some backlash on that one.
Yeah.
Some people were very upset about that. Interestingly enough, that was sponsored by a nonprofit for bone marrow transplants. So they made up this whole story about this AI character having leukemia in order to promote leukemia awareness, bone marrow transplants, try to drum up donors. They even did a collab with a real a real influencer who said that they became a donor because of this program. I'm just like, oh my goodness, what is happening? So,
and it's pouring into everything, right, Mike? Like books, articles, photos, obviously, music. There's AI bands now. This is permeating into every part of our life now.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? Because to generate something with AI is nearly free.
Yeah.
Right? The tools are very inexpensive. If you learn how to do it, you can rinse and repeat over and over. I was trying to find data on this. There are companies out there that are generating like dozens and dozens of AI influencers on social platforms, just spinning them up at probably nearly zero cost, running them and generating millions of dollars in sponsorships directly from those. So this is where we're headed, where I do think in every category where you produce content of some kind, whether that's music, books, videos on YouTube, social posts, photos on Instagram, it's the vast majority of it is going to become AI generated in the near future because it's basically free. And I think as I was thinking about this and having some conversations with you and with Cam on the team, just thinking through like, what are the ramifications of that for the world and for business, and particularly I think for brands, right? So I think brands are going to have an option coming up. They get to decide, are we going to be an AI run brand or are we going to be a human run brand? I think those are going to be your two options. And here's my case to make, right? So we get into this world. Everything's AI, right? Everything being generated for the most part is AI. And I think what's going to happen is what is already happening on things like Google search, right? Where, okay, you get an AI generated response to your question or your search, and then you're going to get a bunch of real content or seemingly real content links to other places, right? That are maybe not or maybe generated by AI. And what's happening right now is that when people like brands create content to rank well on a search engine like Google, and they're using AI to generate that content, they're getting a quick little boost. They get up to the top of the search results pretty quickly because they can generate a lot more content than they could before to rank for those searches. But tools like Google say, whoa, 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 whoa. We don't actually want AI content at the top of our search engine because we know that's not valuable enough for people, right? People want deeper answers. They want true expertise that AI cannot give you because AI cannot give you an answer that isn't already in existence. That is how it works. And we can get into that on a different episode. but it cannot give you answers that have not already been generated somewhere else. And I think Google already knows people want real answers from real people. In fact, when you find out where a lot of content is coming from in AI tools, two of the biggest sources for their own answers to prompts are Reddit, which is all human generated content, and major publications, news publications, which are still generating most of their content with human beings. Like Wall Street Journal, they have a massive licensing agreement with ChatGPT or with OpenAI in order to train their models on human generated content. And I think at the end of the day, that's the other aspect to this is you have this infinite loop. If you allow AI tools to be trained on AI generated content, I think you just have this infinite loop of the same answers over and over. And I don't think that can last. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to create a two-tiered system within any type of content where there's going to be actual certifications for whether something is AI generated or something is actually human generated, whether that's a music, a song, an album, whether that's a video on YouTube, whether that's a blog post or an article that shows up in a Google search result, even answers within an AI prompt, right? You prompt ChatGPT and you say, hey, answer this question for me. And it's going to give you a list of resources and it's going to tell you which ones are AI generated and which ones are human generated. And I think because AI is just basically free, right? Like to generate content with AI is almost well, right now it's free. We'll see if it continues that way with the power generation issues we're going to run into. But it's basically free. It doesn't cost you to pay a human being for the most part to generate it. You can automate a lot of it. It's not necessarily going to be high quality, but if you're like some kind of music producer and you're like, hey man, if I can just generate like mid-level quality pop music and put a persona on it, and some people, a couple million people across the world will buy it, and then I just rinse and repeat that over and over and over again, like eventually, like I'll make some money, right? I'll make enough money to justify that. But I think what's going to happen is you're going to have so much AI generated content in any category that content will become basically free. It doesn't have any intrinsic value, right? Supply and demand would offer that it doesn't, right? Infinite supply means an infinite demand, right? But I think what'll happen is you'll have a two-tiered system, and content actually certifiably generated by human beings who can tell their own stories and showcase like, oh, I'm a real human being. Here's my creative process. Here's how I created the content. We see this already on YouTube, right? Like when creators show you behind the scenes, they actually generate way more interest in their final product than when they hide it and they don't show anybody and then they finally release it. Because people want that human connection. They want to know, how did you make this? How did this come about? Tell me the story of you creating something. We think about like even like famous artists. Like why are some of the, you could talk about Van Gogh, like very famous, amazing artwork. But part of the reason why we think he's so famous and why we like his artwork as a whole is because there's a real human story behind it. A man who struggles with himself, understanding the world, human relationships. It's sad. And for a lot of people, that's relatable. And I think that's where we're going to be headed, where like an AI influencer or an AI generated piece of content doesn't have a story behind it. There's nothing interesting about it from a human perspective. So I think that's kind of the future of content. And I want to hear what you think, and let's jump into like how do brands deal with that?
Yeah, I agree, Mike, with everything you said, and I think there is in art, right? There's you can put a lot of categories into the term art. You could put sports in there. You could put music. You can put actual art. Paintings, drawings, whatever. There is a specialty in each of those, and a specialty that comes from a human being doing something that almost no one else can do, right? Can't replicate it. Think about some of the greatest athletes to ever play their sport. That is special because it is a remarkable human feat that I can't just go out and say, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go be Steph Curry and I'm going to go break records in the NBA. No, physically, I can't do that. I'm too old now. And I just don't have the gifts for it, right? Think about your favorite musicians and what they have done with their lives. They've dedicated their lives to being the best at what they do. Your favorite guitar player or whatever, those things are special because they are human beings just like us who have dedicated their lives to their craft, and nobody else can replicate that. Now, if we go and we say, oh, I'm going to be an AI musician, I'm going to write some really great prompts that generate some great music that everybody loves listening to. What's special about that, Mike, when you can just copy and paste that same prompt and put it in and you generate something that's really, really similar? There's nothing special about that. Even, Mike, think about like 3, 4, 5 years ago. I can't remember the timing of it all. Maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago when like AI image generators were a thing and everyone was like, oh, look at this kitten, holding a bazooka in the desert. Like, this is so cool. Or, oh, look at this Mercedes Benz that I turned into a jet, like, oh, that's so cool. Everyone was like, oh, I can do that too. Look at this. Nobody cares about that stuff anymore. How quickly we have gone from like, oh, that's an AI image. It's just dumb. It's not interesting to me. That is kind of, I think, what is going to happen. Now, when you see something that's actually real, a video where you're like, oh, I can't believe that's real. Is that actually real? Wait, that's real? That's not AI?
Yeah.
That is now like, whoa, that is now something that's really, really special to us because we've kind of opened up this can of worms where anything is visually possible now with AI. But when something's actually real, that's when it becomes special. And Mike, I think you and I were talking about this yesterday. I thought this was a great example of something that I'm sure people are going to try to do this. But would you go and watch a sporting event that was 100% AI generated? Would that be interesting to you?
No, there's no human story. There's no connection. None of it means anything.
Yeah.
Right. It's like when we think about like, why do people enjoy sports? It's like, well, it's the athletic activity. It's seeing human beings like us, but in a totally like peak athletic condition who can do things that no one else can do.
It's the unknown, right?
It's the
Something
unknown.
crazy could happen.
Yeah. And it's like, who's the best?
Yeah.
Right. Like there's that aspect of it too. There's the competitiveness. But if it's AI, it's like, well, I don't have any connection to any of this, right? It's entertaining maybe, but beyond that, it's nothing. I mean, you think about this, like put it in another category. Would people watch Twitch if it wasn't real human beings playing the video games?
Yeah.
If you just ran AI simulations of games, would people watch them? No, like they wouldn't do it because there's no human connection.
Yeah.
And I think that at the end of the day is the real like answer to this whole problem, which is people want to connect with human beings. They don't want to connect with fake stuff. Now, I think there's a little bit of some like people follow these AI influencers right now, and maybe some of them don't understand what they're following. And so they think it's AI, or they don't, they think it's real, or it's just the novelty of it, which I think is actually the case. I think a lot of people are like,
yeah,
oh, look at that. It's AI. I'm going to follow it. Let's see what it says, and kind of waiting for the epic fails that are starting to happen. But I think what's going to happen is AI will get to a point where probably you won't be able to distinguish it from real content, like real human generated people, right? And you might at some level kind of know or think like, yeah, that's probably AI, or it's just mediocre human content. It's like, it's one of those two. I'm not totally sure which one, but it's one of those two. And I think what'll happen is you're gonna have the inverse where people are going to demand to know, is it AI or not? And then also I think you're gonna have human creators who are going to create systems to say, no, this really is human created, right? This is human generated. I'm going to show you how it is. I think you're gonna have to demonstrate it. I think you're gonna have to show it. You can't just put a stamp on it or say that it is. You have to demonstrate, here's the process that we took to create something. And it did not include AI, or it included AI, but only in like this very minimal level. And we're not trying to pull the wool over your eyes with it. And I think this gets me where I'm like, get really excited, because I think this is a huge opportunity for brands. So if you have a two-tiered world, you're going to have brands who are going to have to decide, are we a AI generated brand, or are we a human generated brand? Do we care about making human connections that are honest and true? Or are we just going to go for lowest common denominator and cheap, right? And I think that's where this is all headed, is that brands who demonstrate we love human beings, we exist for human beings, we are built by human beings, and we create for human beings with human like processes, then I think those brands are going to become exceptionally valuable, because they are the brands who are actually going to connect with people. And all the other ones who go for like lowest common denominator and go for lowest cost with a lot of AI are going to find themselves actually on a race to the bottom, where it's just going to become a race to who can be the cheapest and generate the most content and the most marketing. And it's going to become just pure noise that people will not pay a premium for. So I think as a brand, you have an opportunity now to decide, is that the future we want? We want to be lowest common denominator and cheap, and we're just going to have to rely on low cost to be our differentiator? Or are we going to be human centric in everything that we do? And then you're going to have to tell human stories. I think that's like the final piece of this for me, is just, you have to tell stories about human beings for human beings. And that means unlocking your teams, unlocking your staff, unlocking your marketing to tell and partner and collaborate with influencers who are actually real and tell their real story, right? And be a part of that, and really actually care about human beings and not just chase some illusion of the almighty dollar in this, because I don't think it's real. I think the brands that actually get this and do it right and go and be human centric will actually make lots and lots of money.
Yeah.
I think they'll be very fine in this process.
I think we're finding, Mike, already, I think anybody can tell you this, what AI cannot deliver is personality and emotion.
Yep.
So what can you do as a brand to showcase those things from who you are as a brand, your people, your team, and gravitate towards that? Start creating that content now that is unreplicatable by an AI engine, right? Even things like showcasing different members of your team, and showcasing the different parts of their personalities. Showcase some emotion, whether it's, not, you don't have to show everybody crying in your firm, but go find those people, and showcase them. And, it's cliche, but the people that make up your brand are what make it special.
Yep.
And that's, you can't replicate that with AI. Yep. So there's a little safeguard, I guess, for not everything being enveloped by AI into the future. But I agree with you, Mike. I think there will be a premium. I think we're already starting to see it, a premium on human generated content that you don't look at and wonder, is that real? Is that AI? Because I don't think it's that hard to create. I think people have been doing it obviously for decades and centuries. So I agree 100%.
Yep. At the end of the day, human beings are intrinsically remarkable, right? And so that's what we need to do. Tap into human beings.